What's up, guys? It's Toad back with you for Thursday, March 15th. The streak has ended after 3 winning days and a really good day 2 days ago. The slump continues, which I don't want to. I hope it doesn't continue more than one game or more than one day, let's say. Although I will, full disclosure, I was 0-2 on the show yesterday, but I did also bet the Celtics, which I gave out as a lean on the show, but the more I thought about it and the more the market just kind of shifted in that direction, I'm like, we got to get in on this thing at -4.5 or -5. It was just, as I explained on the show, it was just the right spot. The Celtics have just been really good off of a loss, plus it was an injured player theory spot, plus not only being good off of a loss, but the zigzag spots, so the adjustment period there. They came out and they played a good game, so that was good. The first 2 baseball plays pushed, with Philadelphia only winning by 1 in game 1, as Luzardo held up his end of the deal, but the offense did not, which was kind of surprising to me because Fetty, not good, and not good against Philly either, usually. And then, unfortunately, the Brewers' first 5 innings pushed, as it was 2-2 at the end of 5, and the Brewers did wind up winning the game for the duration of it. Full 9 innings they won. So if you made it a full gameplay, the Brewers did win. So that sucks. Then we had the Vegas Knights losing in overtime. That's never fun when you have basically a toss-up game, toss-up price, and Vegas loses in overtime. Congratulations to the Edmonton Oilers, I guess, for advancing there. And then the under in the A's-Dodgers, I mean, that was looking really dodgy early, as it was a 3-3 game through like 5 innings or something, so that wasn't looking good. But then it was 4-3 Dodgers going into the 8th inning, so it's like, all right, they might actually do this. You just have to avoid 2 more runs being scored. And then what happens? Oh, yeah, the Dodgers score 5 runs in the bottom of the 8th. And if they just held on to the 1-run lead, they didn't even need to score. Don't score in that inning. Have your bullpen finish the game, and then that's it, and the game's over, and the Dodgers wouldn't have batted again. It's so bad. 5 runs in the 8th inning puts that one out of reach. So every game yesterday was pretty close, man, as far as the bets are concerned, except, the Celtics being an obvious winner, but I didn't give that out as an actual play on the show, so I suck. Let's talk about today. It's a short card today. We do have one NBA playoff game, which is Thunder Nuggets. Thunder took a 3-2 lead. Thunder sitting at a 5-point favorite on the road, going back to Denver for Game 6. 73% of tickets, 88% of the cash coming in on the Nuggets, though. So the money is coming in on the Nuggets. I do think the total has dropped too much, though, even though both games of the series at Denver were actually pretty low scoring. But we're now seeing a total down from 219.5 to 216 juice to the over. And I believe the total in Game 1 of the series, I think, was like 235, maybe something like that. So this total has dropped a ton. So I think maybe there is actually some value playing the over here, just because the line has been adjusted so far down. It's been over adjusted, no pun intended, or yes pun intended, but to the under. 74% of tickets and only 70% cash on the over, though. Excuse me. So I don't know. Like the market read, the cash percentages make it look like the smarter money might still be going under in this game, but I don't really agree with that. I mean, the Thunder do play a fast-paced style, and if the defenses are kind of lackluster in this one, I could see this thing going over. And Denver actually had a bad shooting game in the last game, even though they almost won the game and probably should have. They actually shot really poorly in that game. So if the Nuggets kind of progress back to a mean, they should actually shoot better this time. So that might actually help as far as the over is concerned as well. As far as the side, yeah, the cash percentage is coming in on the Nuggets, but I think if you're in the Nuggets, it's a tough read, man, because like I just said, the Nuggets had a really bad shooting performance. So usually after you see that, the team does do better in the next game, and they do readjust and get back to kind of like a mean there, because usually a team is not going to shoot that poorly as an outlier. But shockingly, I mean, it's like, what are they? The Celtics shooting terribly, but still winning the game late and then collapsing late. Well, that is what the Nuggets did. But the problem with the Nuggets is that the Nuggets are the lesser of the 2 teams. And when you're the lesser of the 2 teams and you do that and you almost pull off the huge upset and you blow the game late, I don't know how you bounce back from that, man. I don't know how you respond to that. Although, yes, the Nuggets have actually been doing well with their interim coach in the playoffs, but that's why I can't really play this game. I see some kind of conflicting ways to read this game. Like, in a way that Nuggets collapse could spell the end. Like, it could be like a heartbreaking loss that they thought they had the game, and now they might be kind of in a negative mindset here coming into this. But on the other hand, like I said, the Nuggets shot so badly in that game that you should see them shoot better here, and maybe they will actually be able to pull this thing off. Very difficult to say. Hockey, we got 2 games as Carolina goes back to Washington, with Carolina, I believe, up 3-1 in the series now as we go back to Washington for Game 5. Carolina, just like they have been in the other games of the series, is a big favorite despite being on the road. Down from -170 to -163, though, with the cash coming in on Washington. 59% of tickets on Carolina, 59% of the cash coming in on Washington. So the money looks like it is coming in on Washington. I mean, I wouldn't fade Washington in a spot like this because they are at home facing elimination and getting a big underdog price. So I wouldn't really want to fade them. I think you are paying a tax to play Carolina here, though Carolina is definitely the better team. But Carolina is also significantly better at home than they are on the road. So they might actually not be able to get it done in this game tonight, although we will see. They are definitely the better team, though. And they play a similar kind of style to Washington. They're just better at it. I just think Washington, they have had the hype because they had the best record in the Eastern Conference. They got Ovechkin and whatever, but Carolina's actually the better team. So we will see what happens in this game. The final score in the last game is a little bit misleading, as I think Carolina did have an empty net goal at the end of that, and the game was a little bit closer than the final score looked as well. Statistically, I think it was a little bit closer. Speaking of statistics, Winnipeg actually outstatted Dallas in the previous game and still lost the game at Dallas. But now we're going back to Winnipeg, where, by the way, Winnipeg won the only game that they've won in the series. They're down 3-1 here now. I do think Dallas is going to win this series, but I don't think it's going to be in this game. I think Winnipeg will get the win in this one. Is Winnipeg one of the best home teams in hockey, as I pointed out? And yes, I did fade Winnipeg in Game 1 of the series. Got a little bit lucky on that one as Dallas won. I came back with Winnipeg in the next game at home in a bounce-back spot. It was an easy win, and then I actually played Dallas in Game 3, so I'm 3-0 playing the sides in this series. I'm going to play another one here, man. I'm going to take Winnipeg in this one at about -115 is what you can get right now. They're up from -112 to -118. 69% of tickets, 88% of the cash on Winnipeg. So the cash is coming in on them. But I think this is another spot, man, where you're getting Winnipeg at home, where they have a more serious advantage at home, coming off a pretty ugly loss that actually was kind of misleading looking, because actually Winnipeg had more shots, even though, yeah, some of that was because they were behind. But they had more shots. They actually had more hits and were the more physical team. And they actually out-face-offed Dallas, yet they still lost the game. So Dallas winning both games at home. I still expect them to win the series, but I do think Winnipeg will get this game here in the bounce-back spot. They're going to have the adjustments to make. I think it's a tough spot for Dallas to have to go back up there off 2 straight wins. I think the spot is Winnipeg here on the zigzag, so I will be on Winnipeg in that one, even though I'm kind of rooting for all the Canadian teams to just lose. Scott, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. So we will see, but that is one of my plays, and I do have one play in baseball. We have a short baseball card. Only 6 games here. Washington at Atlanta, which was a rain-delayed game yesterday, and Washington wound up winning the game 5-4 at the end of the game. But today we got Trevor Williams and A.J. Smith-Shawver going. And, as I've said before, Washington does have a terrible bullpen, even though their bullpen has actually kind of helped them out the last couple of games. Their bullpen actually has not tanked the game for them, but I don't know how long that can continue. I mean, maybe sure, Washington having like a 7 bullpen ERA is also unsustainable, and maybe the bullpen can't possibly be quite as bad as that, but it is still bad. And in this game, starting pitching-wise, we got Trevor Williams for Washington. I mean, he is not good. 1.57 whip, 5.88 ERA. I mean, he's obviously not getting the job done. I mean, you cannot put 1.5 men on base per inning and get away with it. The ERA also is terrible. Nothing much to like about Williams, man, to be honest. And he's in his 30s. He's just not doing well. I mean, I guess debatably he was serviceable in the last 2 games. He went at least 5 1/3 in each of them, allowing 4 earned runs in each of them, kind of keeping his team in the game at the very least, but he's not great. Although against Atlanta, his numbers are actually not that bad, and 116 at-bats, 259 average allowed, and 700 OPS. That's kind of right near the kind of Mendoza line that you look for as far as the OPS is concerned. So Williams isn't particularly bad. against Atlanta. Atlanta's got Smith-Shawver pitching, who has a nice-looking 2.76 ERA, but is putting too many men on base. 1.35 WHIP as this month, 12-6 strikeout walk ratio. I mean, the strikeout rate is fine, but that walk rate is terrible. That's way too many walks. Did pitch well in those games, and then 8-inning shutout performance, 1 hit allowed against Cincinnati, although he walked way too many guys. Walked 4 guys. He does not have a walkless outing this entire season. And then he did face Pittsburgh, who's a really bad offense, and Cincinnati's offense has been struggling too. So I don't know how much we could really take away from it, but he is pitching at least serviceably at the very least, not allowing more than 3 earned runs in any start, But he hasn't really faced any great offenses yet. Not that Washington has won. They are not. So he may continue to do okay against Washington. Against Washington, they only have 5 at-bats against them, and they're 0 for 5 against them with a 167 OPS as well. So limited sample size, but they haven't done well against Shawver. So I'm going to, Smith-Shawver, So, SS, oh God. So I'm going to stay away from this game. Very hard to read. I mean, you're paying definitely a tax on the Braves, as the Braves are actually better than their record would suggest that they are, because they started off the season. I mean, they're dealing with some injuries, but also they had a really difficult schedule at the start of the season. Washington is definitely not a good team. Washington has, like I said, the worst bullpen, probably the worst bullpen in the major leagues. So all that being considered, I do think Atlanta's the better offense and the better bullpen, and probably does have the starting pitching edge in this game as well. But you can't lay like a minus 200 something money line here, especially when Atlanta's very public. 88% of tickets, only 82% of the cash. So I don't know what I would want to do with this game, to be honest. And the cash looks like it's coming in on the over, because we know Williams is not a very good pitcher. Both pitchers do have bad whips and put too many people on base, so that might be the reason why the over has some money coming in. But the matchup doesn't look particularly terrible for each pitcher, so for either pitcher, I should say. So I'm going to stay away from that. Yeah, Winnipeg. That is what Cole. That's his reward when he cleans around the house. Which I don't know. Does he ever clean? I don't know, because we usually see he's got like a pile of dirty laundry on the ground all the time when he podcasts. I don't know. Minnesota, Baltimore. This is my other play, my only baseball play. I'm going to go Baltimore on the money line here to try to avoid the sweep. I think the starting pitching matchup is in favor of Baltimore here. Minnesota swept the doubleheader yesterday, so not good for Baltimore. But what that does mean is that Minnesota did use more of their best bullpen arms than Baltimore did. And you can look at the bullpen situation. Minnesota used like all their best relievers in that first game to try to save that game. And then they had to use more of their relievers in game 2 to save that game too. So they're coming off 2 games where their bullpen had to come out and get saves. They used a bunch of their relief staff, like pretty much their entire relief staff pitched yesterday. Whereas Baltimore actually used a little bit less of their relief staff, and they got like Charlie Morton in the mix, who didn't even pitch that bad actually for a few innings to kind of save some innings there. So I actually think Baltimore's bullpen is in better shape rest-wise coming into this, even though, yeah, I think Minnesota does have the better of the 2 bullpens. But in this rest spot, I don't think Minnesota's bullpen really has that edge anymore coming into this game. Of course, like I said, Minnesota's on the verge of a sweep here, so they might take the Orioles a little bit lightly after beating them twice yesterday. Minnesota's on this crazy hot streak, so I know I'm jumping in front of this train, but they've won like 10 games in a row, which I know that is jumping in front of a train, but they do have Milwaukee up next and then Cleveland, so they might consider those to be bigger series against more serious teams than Baltimore is. But Baltimore, their talent level is still not as bad as what their record would tell you, man. Even though they're playing like one of the worst teams in baseball, you're getting a team with a record that's like this as a favorite. You got to take notice of that, man. And Minnesota hasn't been particularly good on the road. Even with those 2 wins yesterday, they're still 8-14 on the road. So Minnesota's been much better at home. Baltimore, not good at home, but still at least better than they are on the road. So we're going to go with Baltimore here. And again, seeing a team with that kind of record disparity here, the way worse record actually being favored, the public's not going to look for that team. But 80% of tickets, 90% of the cash on Baltimore right now. I think the actual money is on Baltimore. I don't think the public is really coming in and wanting to play Baltimore here. And they don't really know who either of these pitchers are necessarily. Although if you look at their pitchers, Sugano does have the way better ERA. So maybe that is keeping some of the bettors off of the Minnesota side. But I don't think they're going to come in and bet Baltimore in this game, really. And I think the real money is coming in on Baltimore to drive that number up. And that is where I am going to be as well to try to avoid the sweep. I think the bullpen edge that Minnesota might have is a little bit negated, and I actually think Baltimore has the better offense, even though they haven't been playing like it. Baltimore, talent-wise, does have better hitters than Minnesota does. Chris Paddock is pitching for Minnesota. Obviously, his numbers are not great. 4.76 ERA, 1.29 whip. I mean, yeah, he's been not that bad, though, after a really bad start against the White Sox to start the season, which you can kind of throw those first starts out, kind of an outlier situation where the pitcher's trying to get, back in game shape again or whatever, even though, yes, it was against a very bad White Sox offense. But since then, he hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs in any start, but he was consistently going 5 innings in every start until he had a really efficient outing against San Francisco where he went 7 1/3, 3-hit, 1-run ball, which was a really good outing, but I don't know that that necessarily means that he's coming back into form or anything like that because he still has a 30-16 strikeout walk ratio, which is really not that good. Walking too many guys, definitely putting too many guys on base. His numbers are mediocre against Baltimore in 39 at-bats, 256 average, 652 OPS. So normally I wouldn't be necessarily looking to fade a starter with decent numbers like that against the opposing hitters, but the opposing lineup has seen him before, and that's kind of the crux of the matter. Is I like playing on Sugano, man. I mean, he's a guy that even professionals don't like this guy because some of the guys that use like the advanced metrics are like, oh, this guy's not good. Like the advanced metrics tell you he's not that good because he doesn't strike guys out. Okay, but he doesn't walk guys either, and he doesn't allow hits. 26-8 strikeout walk ratio is pretty good, even though, yeah, the strikeout rate is really low in 46 1/3 innings, but the walk rate is also really, really low. 39 hits allowed is also pretty low, so that's also really good. He's going fairly deep into games, going at least 7 innings in 3 of the last 4 outings, allowing no more than 3 earned runs in any start this entire season. And yes, he's allowed 7 home runs, but I think that makes the amount of runs that he's allowed even more impressive because he's just not putting men on base. So the home runs have been like solo home runs. And yeah, sure, if he allows home runs, they could hurt him if he winds up giving up some where guys are on base. But I'm hoping that doesn't happen. And Minnesota's another not great offense here, and they have not faced Sugano before. So again, these new pitchers that are over here new to the majors, I think they have a little bit of an edge when they're professionals like this and they know what they're doing. And Sugano, as I point out, has been a professional baseball pitcher for a long time, even though, yes, it was in Japan. And when they come over to the U.S., they have to get used to the culture. The game rules change a little bit. I think the baseball is a little bit bigger in the U.S. as well. So you got to get used to all that. But, of course, he's been fine with a 1.01 whip and 2.72 ERA. Out of the Japanese pitchers that came over this year, I think he's struggling the least just because he has so much of a professional pedigree already. He's a very experienced pitcher, so I think that's part of the reason why, and I think he does have the advantage over these lineups early on when they don't know what to expect out of him and don't know what he's going to throw. He's not a guy that comes out and blows you away, which is why the advanced metrics guys don't like him, but he gets you out. He induces a lot of ground balls, so I like Sugano here. I'm going to go with Baltimore. Looks like a fade the public kind of type of play here where they're not going to want to come in and play the worst team as a favorite like that, so that's what I'm going to do. Baltimore to finally end Minnesota's win streak. Then we got White Sox, Cincinnati. Bryce Wilson getting the start for the White Sox. He is an opener, so he's probably only going to go a few innings, and he hasn't really been effective this year. 4.88 ERA, 1.73 whip. Those numbers aren't good. Cincinnati is familiar with him because he was on Milwaukee for a while, so they have faced him 63 at-bats worth, but he's actually done well against them. 222 average, 650 OPS. So even though Cincinnati is familiar with him, they actually haven't done that well against him. Nick Martinez is probably the better pitcher, even though his whip isn't very good. 1.3, 4.23 ERA. He's been okay. Does have an 11-0 strikeout walk ratio this month, though. So overall, I mean, pretty good. And 37-11 on the season. He's allowing too many hits and too many runs, but his strikeout walk numbers aren't really that bad. So he does have decent command. He's not a terrible pitcher, and he's facing a bad White Sox lineup here who, in a small sample size of 17 at-bats, are only 176 hitters off him with a 575 OPS. So I do think Martinez does have the advantage here, and Cincinnati, shockingly, is actually trying to avoid a sweep here. So I think they are going to be focused. I mean, you don't want to get swept at home as a huge home favorite. I mean, that can't happen, right? That's ridiculous. Even though Cincinnati does play their cross-state rival, the Cleveland Indians, next, which is normally I would say that's a look ahead, but I don't think you're going to overlook the White Sox, and the White Sox have come into your house and beat you twice already. And with Cincinnati knowing Bryce Wilson, at least, I think Cincinnati does have an edge. in this game, but you're paying a lot for it. They're up to minus 215, 72% of tickets, 88% of the cash coming in on them. If you're going to play Cincinnati, I'd probably go run line. I mean, the total is high, 9.5, so at least that means that more runs probably will come across the plate in this game, and that helps a run line play, of course, because if more runs are scored, it's more likely you're going to get up, have a team cover that minus 1.5 run line. So probably I would lean that way in that game. Not a play for me. Tampa at Toronto. Toronto got the win yesterday after I won on Tampa in the first game as Toronto returned home. As I always say, when you return home from a road trip, sometimes you get a little bit distracted. Toronto kind of blew that game late. Was a pretty close game, though, and then Toronto did bounce back. As I say, that happens a lot. You bounce back in the second game back home. They had a nice game yesterday, much lower scoring game yesterday. Now it's Zach Littell against Kevin Gausman this time. Zach Littell, decent numbers overall. I mean, a 1.11 whip is pretty good, indicative that his 4.4 ERA should be lower than it probably is. 30-9 strikeout walk ratio looks good. I mean, he doesn't come in and rack up a lot of strikeouts, but he's not allowed a lot of hits. Doesn't put a lot of men on base, not a lot of walks. Just, I think, to some extent, maybe he even got a little bit unlucky as he had those 2 starts where he gave up 12 runs over 11 innings at Texas, and then a really bad start somehow at home against Anaheim. But since then, he's actually been fine. Excluding those 2 starts, he's allowed no more than 3 earned runs in any start, and he is going fairly deep into most of these games. 6 innings, 7 innings, 1 5-inning outing there. He hasn't been that bad. 8-1 strikeout walk ratio, 13 innings pitched, only 4 runs allowed, 2 earned runs allowed in each start this month, and one of them was at the New York Yankees, and the other was against Milwaukee. So he faced some pretty good lineups there. So he is pitching fairly well. However, Toronto does have his number in 49 at-bats. Toronto, 306 average off him and 807 OPS. So Littell has not done very well against Toronto. Gausman is pitching for Toronto, and he's pitching well this season. A .97 whip, 3.97 ERA. He's been pretty good, not allowing very many hits at all, well below 1 hit per inning. Pretty high strikeout rate, getting close to 1 strikeout per inning. He's not really a guy that comes out and throws gas. He's not Kevin Gausman, especially at this age. But 40-12 strikeout walk ratio is pretty good. He had a little bit of a road bump there, mostly a bad game against the Yankees. Had a couple of bad games on the road. Houston and the Yankees, I mean, not really easy tasks. And then since then, he's kind of bounced back a bit with a 12-1 strikeout walk ratio and a couple of starts in the month of May. Been pretty good, but you go look at his numbers against Tampa, not very good in 33 at-bats. 364 average allowed in 1,019 OPS. So even though there are some things to like about both of these pitchers here, their matchup numbers are actually pretty bad against the opposing lineup. So I actually think this might be a sneaky over, even though it looks like the money is actually coming in on the under, dropping the juice a little bit on the over 8 here, 67% of tickets and 51% of the cash on the over. But I actually think the over might actually be the right way to look in this game because the matchup numbers aren't good for either pitcher. So I could potentially see them struggling in this game a little bit. And Toronto's bullpen hasn't exactly been good either, even though Tampa's has been fairly good. But the bullpen usage, I haven't really looked, but since Toronto had to, kind of win some close games, I think their bullpen usage is probably a little bit rough as well. So I would not lay a minus 160 whatever price on Toronto either here, with Gausman not having good numbers against Tampa, their bullpen being questionable, and Toronto being very public, 81% of tickets and only 57% of the cash. But I think it could be a sneaky overplay where it looks like the professional bettors, looking at the metrics for these guys, think, oh yeah, it's a decent pitching matchup. But I think the matchups against these specific hitters say otherwise. Houston and Texas are actually starting a new series. So Texas is staying at home after sweeping the Rockies. Pretty easy series for them, although I believe, did they play a doubleheader in that series? Maybe they didn't. Colorado's played a bunch of doubleheaders, it feels like, but maybe it wasn't in this series. So Texas, they are staying at home, though, coming off a sweep of Colorado. Houston, I believe, just had a winning series as well at home against, who was it? Kansas City, and now they're going out on the road. So when you start a road trip, a lot of times you are focused. That's a good spot as a road team, starting a road trip with some momentum. Hunter Brown pitching for Houston, he's turned into something, man. He's basically the ace of their staff at this point with a ridiculous .9 whip and 1.48 ERA. Really good numbers, 58-14 strikeout walk ratio. So he hasn't been too wild. He's walking a ton of guys, but his strikeout rate is unbelievably high. like well over 1 strikeout per inning. And way fewer than 1 hit per inning. So he's been pretty much unhittable. He's only allowed 1 home run, and he hasn't allowed any home runs since his first start of the season against the Mets. Crazy. And since then, 5 of his 8 starts, he's allowed no earned runs since then. And he hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs in any start on the season. And that was only that 1 start against the White Sox, or maybe he just kind of wasn't as focused, but he still got the job done. So Hunter Brown is actually really, really dominating this year, man. He's faced mostly weak offenses, though. So now he's up against Texas, though. Texas hasn't been hitting well either, but Texas's numbers are actually fairly good against Hunter Brown in 90 at-bats, 333 average, 870 OPS. So I know Brown is a much different pitcher now than he was back when he faced Texas those times. So I don't know if we can really put that much stock into those numbers because Brown definitely struggled his first few years in the majors, and now he's like really, really an ace. So I think we might – I would bank more on Hunter Brown being very, very good in this game rather than the matchup numbers that say Texas has had his number in the past, because Brown has really kind of developed into something. Jacob deGrom on the other side, I mean, he's good as well. 1.02 whip, 2.72 ERA. I mean, we all know he's a veteran. Most likely going to be a Hall of Fame pitcher. I mean, he's got more than 1 strikeout per inning still, even though he's a 36-year-old at this point. Well below 1 hit per inning, 46-10 strikeout walk ratio. He's doing really well this season as well. Wouldn't expect him to do poorly either today. 27 at-bats from Houston, 222 average against him, 694 OPS, and only 3 of their hitters have even ever faced him before. So I think deGrom actually has a little bit of an edge here just because Hunter Brown does actually have some kind of bad numbers against Texas's hitters, and deGrom is kind of unfamiliar to Houston's hitters. I think he might have a little bit of an extra edge there, but Texas has 71% of the cash and only 71% of tickets and only 69% of the cash. 70 and 68 now. So Texas does look public, and they're only a small home favorite with some of the money coming against them, as I think the professional bettors really like Hunter Brown as being like one of the most dominant pitchers in baseball this year. I could see leaning to an under in this game rather than the side. I think that might be the better way to look, even though you got to worry about Brown not having a good history against Texas and this being kind of a hitting-friendly ballpark to some extent. You got a low total that's basically at 7, so you'd really have to get it under 7, which is the key number, of course, because that's what breaks the tie in baseball. I see 87% of tickets, 100% of the cash on the under. I don't buy that, but I do think the money will come in on the under, but I have a little bit of hesitation just because of Brown's history against Texas. And then we do have the A's and the Dodgers trying to finish up here. Beto pitching for the A's has not been good at all. 1.51 whip, 4.75 ERA. Should even be higher given the fact that he's putting more than 1.5 base runners on per inning. 27-16 strikeout walk ratio is not going to get it done. More than 1 hit per inning. Not a good strikeout rate. Way high walk rate. I mean, he's not a good pitcher, but surprisingly has done well against the Dodgers in 22 at-bats, holding him a 227 average, 655 OPS. But can you really trust Beto? I don't really think you can. I mean, he's a bad pitcher overall. But then on the other side, Matt Sauer is pitching for the Dodgers, and we don't want to sour his reputation here. He's got a 1.54 ERA and .86 whip, but he's done that pretty much out of relief appearances, although he did have a 5-inning performance and a 4-inning performance, so he did pretty well in both those appearances, but those were both against the Miami Marlins, who have a terrible offense. The A's offense is a little bit better, and yeah, he did face Arizona, who are a good offense, but he only went 1 inning in that game. Didn't allow anything in the game. Also didn't strike anybody out. Only threw 9 pitches, a very efficient inning for Sauer there. So he is good, but I think Dodgers are probably going with an opener here. I would imagine that Sauer, I mean, maybe they'll let him go about 4 innings in this game. I think that's probably about the max that you're going to see out of him. But against the A's in 8 at-bats, they've actually seen him before, and they have 2 home runs off him, 625 average and 2,125 OPS. So Sauer, I know it's a very small sample size, but his stats against the A's are actually not very good. So you know the Dodgers are going to be a giant favorite here. I don't even see what the number is on this, but you know the Dodgers are going to be a huge favorite here. And I think, obviously, you're always paying too much of a tax, too much of a price for the Dodgers, but it might actually be a situation where maybe there is actually some value on the A's because Dodgers have not hit Beto very well. And Sauer, you don't know how many innings you're going to get out of him, and the A's have actually really, really wrecked him. And you saw there, Rooker and Langoliers both have a home run off him. So if you want to look for player props, hits plus runs plus RBIs, again, is the better way to do it, because total bases, if you get a walk, it doesn't count at all towards your total bases. So that's going to do it. My plays today are Winnipeg in the NHL, minus 115. Baltimore Orioles, minus 130. That's going to do it. Tower Gang Toad on Twitter, patreon.com/Tower Gang to support us. Go see us at Bro Grove late in June. We had another episode last night. And I think that's going to do it. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll have a much fuller slate of games, and I might actually start dabbling in WNBA as well, as that starts tomorrow. I think, even though I hate women's basketball, I think it's crap. It's terrible basketball. It's unwatchable. But if there's money to be made, maybe we should jump in and make some plays on it. We will see. I think a lot of the same situational handicapping tools apply, so we'll see. That's going to do it for me for now, though. Let's have a good one. Peace out, man.